Hey everyone! Whether you're a computer science student just wrapping your head around system architecture or a senior engineer currently battling in the trenches of legacy code bases, you definitely know the pain of bad design. Today we're stepping entirely away from the code editor, so no syntax tutorials and absolutely no framework debates. In this explainer, we're going to build a really solid foundational mental model of software design. We're going back to the core ideas that dictate why some systems are just a total joy to work with, while others feel like a house of cards just waiting to collapse.
Everything we talk about today anchors back to one massive central question. How do we keep the cost of change low as a system grows? You see, writing software isn't just typing out commands. It's really an ongoing exercise in managing the economics of change. If it's too expensive or it takes way too much time to safely push an update, well, the design is actively working against you. The real goal of software engineering isn't just getting the computer to execute instructions. It's to engineer an illusion of simplicity so that we human beings can safely modify the system later down the line.
Okay, let's dive right in by mapping out exactly where our focus lies. It's incredibly helpful to distinguish between the different levels of software design. At the macro level, up at the top, you've got architectural styles. Think of these as your high-level system blueprints, like are we building microservices or a monolithic app? Then, way down at the micro level, you have coding conventions. This is your formatting, naming consistency, the classic tabs versus spaces stuff, basically the paint and trim of your house. But right in that sweet spot, sitting perfectly in the middle, are design principles. These are the practical guidelines for structuring your components and modules. They dictate how different pieces of your code actually interact with each other. And this middle layer, that is exactly where we're going to spend our time.
Now, it is so easy to focus all our energy on that initial build phase, writing the code for the very first time. But in the grand scheme of a system's lifetime, that initial build is literally just a tiny blip on the radar. The overwhelming majority of time, money, and let's face it, developer sanity is totally consumed by lifetime maintenance. Modifying existing code, hunting down bugs, and slapping new features onto a live system, that absolutely dominates the total cost. If our design makes that maintenance phase even a tiny bit more difficult, we're basically bleeding resources.
And this validates exactly why that maintenance phase is so incredibly massive. Fred Brooks, a true pioneer in computing, made a brilliant observation. He said, successful software always gets changed. Just think about it. If your software actually brings value to people, their needs are going to evolve, the business will pivot, and you are absolutely going to be asked to update the code. Software that never changes is software that nobody is using. So because change is literally the only guarantee in a successful project, maximizing our ease of change just has to be our highest priority.
So, what does good actually look like in a code base? Well, when we successfully apply design principles in that middle layer, we don't just get some abstract sense of architectural purity. We get highly practical, tangible outcomes. Well-designed code consistently exhibits 4 distinct properties: locality of change, testability, readability, and replaceability. Let's break down exactly what each of these means for your day-to-day workflow.
First up is locality of change. Simply put, this is your ability to modify one specific part of a system without accidentally blowing up completely unrelated parts. Have you ever fixed a minor bug in the user interface, only to somehow completely break the database connection? Yeah, that is a massive failure of locality. By keeping our concerns strictly separated and making sure our modules are focused, we ensure that changes stay contained. When you tweak a single feature, the ripples absolutely shouldn't capsize a distant part of the system. Keeping change local is what keeps change cheap.
Of course, a huge part of this is how confidently you can make those local changes, which brings us right to testability. This means designing your code so its expected behavior can be easily and independently verified using automated tests. Untested, highly dependent code quickly turns into this tightly coupled legacy trap that developers are genuinely terrified to even touch. But testable code? That is your cozy safety net. When you can easily mock out dependencies and verify behavior, you actively eliminate the fear of making changes.
The third property is readability. Look, the compiler literally does not care if your code is an unreadable mess. It's going to execute it just the same. But professional code is actually a communication medium written for other humans. Readability is all about writing intention-revealing code. You're communicating your logic, your decisions, and your domain knowledge to your teammates, or very likely to yourself 6 months down the line when you're ready to curse out the original author, only to run a get blame and realize, it was you. If it takes hours just to figure out what a single file does, the cost of changing it skyrockets.
Finally, we have replaceability. This means building composable systems where modules can be extended or swapped out completely seamlessly. Imagine your app relies on a specific third-party service for sending out emails. Down the line, the business decides, hey, we're switching to a different provider. Well, if your system is highly replaceable, you can swap out that single email dependency without having to rewrite your core logic or your user registration flow or your entire billing system. Modular components give you a flexible, incredibly resilient architecture.
It really helps to compare software engineering to physical engineering here. In the physical world, you wouldn't casually grab a sledgehammer and just knock down a load-bearing wall because you wanted a slightly bigger living room, right? You respect the structural blueprints and the electrical codes, while software engineering relies on design principles and abstraction guidelines in much the same way. We apply these structural rules thoughtfully to make sure the whole building doesn't come crashing down just because we wanted to add a new window.
Now, there is a super vital distinction we have to make right here. Principles are heuristics. They are not absolute rules. They are certainly not universal laws of physics like gravity. These concepts are simply tools in an experienced developer's tool belt, and they require real situational judgment. Sometimes, applying a fancy abstraction can actually make a perfectly simple problem unnecessarily complex. The goal is never dogmatic adherence to some acronym. The goal is managing the cost of change. If a guideline actually makes your specific codebase harder to maintain, you use your judgment and you adapt.
So armed with this solid foundation, we are ready to explore some of these specific heuristics. In upcoming explainers, we are going to unpack the solid principles, demystify dry, KISS, and YAGNI, and we'll dive right into cohesion and coupling, composition over inheritance, grasp, and the law of Demeter. We're going to look at the real-world trade-offs of every single one, completely free of the usual hype.
But until then, I want to leave you with this final thought to carry into your next coding session. Principles exist because future you is a different person from present you, and code is mostly read, not written.